All right, Dale. I actually, quick story, because I know we've been talking about Manscaped. I went to the doctor and they had to do like a routine check on me or whatever, and they did like this EKG, and they cut little patches, shaved little patches of my body, and I went home patchy, and I said, well, I can fix this because I have Manscaped. And we've actually been talking about Manscaped before, and I groom myself with Manscaped, but I normally don't shave my chest. Yesterday I shaved my whole chest. Took about, 2 minutes because I wasn't fucking worried about clipping myself at any point, and I just bam, 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 the whole thing. I've never had such a quick, smooth shaving experience where I didn't have to worry about like accidentally shaving my nipple off.
Yeah.
And it was amazing.
The nipple is the difficult part, right? Because I never shave my chest.
I hate shaving my chest, and it was just like a actually pleasant experience for once.
Yeah, it was easy. And I did the exact same thing, and no worries around. Like the nipple area was like, at first I kind of tested it. I was like, okay, and I just went for it, no problems, and I was silky smooth.
Love shaving my balls though. Yeah. I don't know. I just want to throw that in there.
The Lawnmower 2.0 is waterproof. It charges via USB cable, which is awesome. And it's just a really good product, really easy to use. No nick technology, so you can shave your balls, your chest, whatever you want, your nipples, whatever makes you happy, you can do. So if you guys want to be part of that and you want some joy in your life, go to manscaped.com. When you order, use promo code ESF, and you get 20% off. And depending on like the packages you get, they have like an awesome little like bag that you can, like a travel bag, and all kinds of good stuff, cologne and ball spray and all kinds of good stuff. So make sure you check it out, manscaped.com.
Please make sure, just try out their welcome package. That little, if you go with our little promo code like Dale mentioned, they got that little welcome package that has the Lawnmower 2.0, that has the razor. I forget the name of the razor, but it's so good.
The plow.
Yeah, the plow. Just trust me. Try it out. Your balls will thank you.
Yeah. Eat, sleep, fantasy. You rocking with the best. NFL Fantasy Football Podcast. We talking mock drafts. Running backs better follow the conversation with
John,
Dale, Christian, and Armando. Screaming Eat Nation. We doing what we like. Tune in every week. Guarantee we get it hype. Fantasy football enthusiasts. I know you plan to be joining us on Eat, Sleep, Fantasy. Yeah. Eat, Sleep, Fantasy. Woo! Eat, Sleep, Fantasy.
If anybody's watching on YouTube, can you write a message? And we should be on Periscope too.
All right, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Eat, Sleep, Fantasy Football Podcast, also known as the... Can I say YouTube? Can I just say YouTube of Fantasy Football Podcast? Sure. We're the YouTube of Fantasy Football Podcast. My name is Christian Brito. Joining me, as always, is Mr. Dale DeMott in his beautiful Eat, Sleep, Fantasy Miami Vice style shirt. What's up, man?
What's up? Oh, yeah. Long story. Man, should I get into last night's story or no? Is this even going to be interesting at all?
Okay, just make it a 1 minute story. Go.
I set everything up. I put my camera up. I did all the graphics. I was ready to go, set up my microphone, got everything situated for the first live show that we're doing of the season. And I went to put my daughter down to bed at 8:30, and I fell asleep, and I did not wake up again until like 3 a.m.
So, two things. One, I will not shame you too much because that has happened to me before. But two, do you know why that happened to you?
No, why?
You are older than Frank Gore.
Yeah.
However, Frank Gore did just fine this weekend, so that's nothing to be ashamed about, man.
Yep. I did. I've been doing good. I went to the doctor and got a B12 injection.
Okay.
I don't know really what it does. I just told him to do it. It did give me a little energy. I have a little pep today, so I'm ready to go. We are talking about our Week 3 rankings. This will be all video as well, but if you're listening in a podcast form, we apologize because it's really hard to figure out what's going on between audio, video, and all that stuff. So we're trying it out, so my apologies ahead of time if this isn't working out good for everybody.
What we want to do here, guys, is really we want to put out content for you everywhere that you might be listening. So that's why we started with everything on all the platforms for podcasts. But I, for one, and I know a lot of our listeners do a lot of YouTube. I'm YouTube for music, but I also listen to a lot of audios on YouTube itself. And so we wanted to make sure that we get on there. But through that medium, we also want to be able to put out videos, which we've been doing. We've been doing multiple things on there. So please make sure that you subscribe to our YouTube channel. It's a very good way to stay in touch there, to get notifications when the latest podcasts drop. You can put notifications on there as well with the little bell alerts or whatever. Or you can just subscribe to the channel and make sure that you're checking in and be updated with our latest pods and videos on there.
Yep. Don't forget website eatsleepfantasy.com for all our rankings as we go through all this stuff.
Yep.
It's free. You do have to log in, but really, I'll be completely honest, because we're kind of a new site, we like to build up our email list so we can email updates and stuff like that. We want to start doing like weekly emails. We haven't really done that yet, but that's what we're going for right now, is for everybody to get rankings. Give us your email address so we can send you emails later. You can always opt out of it. It's something new we're kind of trying. So if you want all the rankings, they're all free. You just have to sign in.
All right. Yep. eatsleepfantasy.com. It's a website. So let's get into our show here, Dale, because I know that you want to go ahead and talk about our rankings and where you're right and where I'm wrong, because you've been better at rankings through the first 2 weeks than I have, which I think is new for you, right?
It's kind of clicking. I feel like I am ready to go in ranking. The first week, Brito and myself are part of the expert consensus on Fantasy Pros. If you don't know what Fantasy Pros is, it's probably one of the biggest fantasy websites in the world. But so we're fantasy rankers, and we get scored based off of how we do every week. Did I say that right?
Yeah. It's just they compare us and our, rankings with everyone else on the site.
So the first week I was like 30 out of like the 200. This week I was number 12 out of the 200 or so. So
top 5 this week? Top 5 this week?
Oh man, I hope so. I really have kind of buckled down on my rankings. I'm not so willy-nilly this year.
I will
not
say
going too bold, but I'm going realistic, and it's working out.
I am like a fine wine. I get better with age. As the season goes along, I think I will get better, because I'm typically a really good ranker. I don't know what happened these first 2 weeks. I will say I'm probably just a little bit too stuck on my preseason ranks and need to throw some of those out the door, because we've seen through 2 weeks that some of those stocks should have validly plummeted, and there are players that we can't trust even after just 2 weeks. So let's kind of get a little bit into that. I know that you're displaying on our graphic there, Dale, our top running backs. So let's talk a little bit about let's talk a little bit about our top running backs at each position. Who here stands out to you in this top 10?
Okay, so we're looking at, and I just threw it. The graphic is basically the top 8. We are new at this video stuff, but because I can only get 8, I couldn't fit 12 or 10.
That's what she said.
So we're looking at
Dale,
our
come on, man.
rankings
That's
here.
what she said. Can you just stop for the jokes?
Yes.
Fuck.
Oh, sorry. I'm telling you, I'm not good at multitasking. So I'm trying to look at making sure our stream is doing okay and still visible and all that stuff.
Right.
Anyways, so yeah, our top 10, our top 8. There we go. The biggest question that actually we're getting a lot is about Alvin Kamara and what he's up to and how much faith we have in him. He's playing Seattle. I have him at 7. You have him in the top 5 at 5 exactly.
Right.
I don't know. Do you want to start with Alvin Kamara and go from there?
Do you feel scared of Kamara? Because I mean, obviously, no Drew Brees at Seattle.
Yep.
But other than that, it's not. Nothing has hugely changed. Obviously, there is a downgrade at the quarterback position with Teddy Bridgewater. I know there's been a little bit of talk about Taysom Hill, whom I think might actually come in and be in some packages with Taysom Hill as well. But I think in both of those scenarios, you have potential running quarterbacks, which should open up a little bit for Kamara. Yeah. And 2, I think Kamara's just going to get more work this week. Yeah, you balance that out with maybe it's a little bit less efficient, but more work typically will result in more fantasy points. Now, take that down a notch because efficiency should go down with the defense that they're playing. They're away and the downgrade at quarterback. But I think you should treat Kamara as usual, a top 5 running back.
I'm not too... I mean, look what happened with Le'Veon Bell last week without Sam Darnold and without Trevor Siemian. Over 30 touches for the game. I mean, they were just feeding him. And Kamara is very similar to Bell, how he plays, and probably how they're going to game plan and get the ball in his hands as often as possible. I mean, he's a playmaker, so not necessarily a bad thing when you have a worse quarterback. When you have a not as skilled quarterback, they're going to dump down a little bit more, and that's where Alvin's going to flourish. So I'm not scared. I am a little worried about New Orleans and their offensive production overall. He's going to get his touches, but how often is he going to get opportunity to score is what I'm a little nervous about.
Yes, and that's kind of a valid concern, especially since through 2 weeks you haven't seen a touchdown for Kamara, right? He still was very hugely productive in week 1, but didn't score there, even though their offense put up 30 points. And then here, last week, obviously 60 yards is nothing great for a running back for like him. So this week I expect double-digit points, but I am hesitant to say, hey, we're going to have these huge games from Kamara because of that slightly capped offensive upside.
Yeah. All right, let's talk. Actually, since we are live and we're doing this, you and I both, or actually I have Dalvin Cook at 2, you have him at 3. Pretty high for a guy that was drafted as an RB2 so early in the year against Oakland this week.
Right.
What do you? While you talk a little bit about Dalvin Cook, you have Zeke, Christian McCaffrey, then Dalvin Cook. You want to talk a little bit about that? I'm going to check something really quick on the other end.
Well, you take what he's done in the first 2 games. Even take last week. Their offense only put up 16 points. It wasn't a stellar performance for that offense in general. And yet, he had 20 carries, 154 rushing yards, tacked on another 37 receiving, and a touchdown. Week before, versus Atlanta, they had the game in hand for most of the game, and yet still, Dalvin Cook, 120 yards total, and 2 touchdowns. It seems like not only is he has a little bit of both things here. Not only is he going to be their workhorse, but he also has the ability to just rip a 75-yard touchdown whenever. We saw it in the preseason. We saw it last week. He's averaging, 7.5 yards a carry?
Crazy.
And he's getting a lot of carries. So, Dalvin Cook this week, Oakland, they're at home. Everything's pointing to he's going to have a great week. No qualms.
Yeah.
Again,
yeah.
What was our thing about Dalvin? He stays healthy, he'll be good. He stays healthy, he'll be a top 12 running back. So as long as he's on the field, top 12 running back.
Yeah. All right, and look at our top 8. I'm going to bring that back here. I know this is just week 3, but we have Nick Chubb and Dalvin Cook in our top 8 that definitely weren't even in the top 12 being drafted. So that's how quick things can change.
They were both, kind of just outside.
Yeah.
That's why they've kind of jumped in because they've had Chubb has had a decent week. Had a decent week this past week, but it got the carries, got the catches. When you look at 22 total touches in a game like that, that's something that's super encouraging. And it's going to be kind of a prime time-ish game this week. You expect Cleveland to step up their game and Chubb to have a good game.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, they're going to – I think Nick Chubb, and maybe we could talk about Nick Chubb next, is this is more, I guess, not only this week, but we're just talking about these players here for you guys. Nick Chubb is going to be more and more and more and more involved as we move forward. Do you agree? I mean, they're going to
as we move forward until
yeah.
we have some involvement late in the season by Kareem Hunt. I do think eventually when Kareem Hunt comes back, I don't think there's going to be. Well, first of all, he's a little hurt himself. He had what is it, hernia surgery, I believe. And even though he's suspended for the first 8 games, he still needs to recover and come back. But he will get some work. I don't think Nick Chubb will be super impacted, but there will be some work that goes to Hunt.
Okay.
Let's not just like chalk it up as Hunt is some sort of scrub here.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. That'd be a... Never mind.
What?
Don't worry about it.
I'm trying to figure out how to do this stupid streaming thing on YouTube. I don't think we're live on YouTube right now, which is annoying.
I know we're live on Periscope. Do you know why? Because I'm watching myself. I look good.
You're looking better than you used to look. That's for sure.
Wow. What's wrong with how I used to look?
Where is
What's wrong
the
with how I
stupid
used
thing?
to look, Dale?
Huh? What?
I look good. I'm looking at myself. I look great. Yeah. You need to leave me alone, man. Anyways, let's move on here a little bit, Dale. I want to talk to you about a guy who is just outside of my top 10.
Okay.
But he is not necessarily even consideration for that top 10 for most rankers on Fantasy Pros, and he isn't in your top 10, and that's Todd Gurley.
Mm-hmm.
Todd Gurley did get a touchdown here in week 2, but we had concerns about him in week 1. Anything solved for you in week 2 with his 19 total touches?
19 touches were encouraging, for sure.
15 touches the week before. Are you still worried about Todd Gurley?
100%. Yeah, absolutely. What was it's kind of hard like looking at the chats and going back and forth, but yeah, I mean, Todd Gurley is going to be okay. It's not like I didn't plummet his ranking. I mean, he's still, a strong RB2. It's just I don't trust him as much as Austin Eckler. I don't trust him as much as Aaron Jones, Marlon Mack, Derrick Henry. Like, you can't really form an argument that's going to have me trust Todd Gurley in what the coach's decision is moving forward with when he gets the ball and how often and especially where.
I'm going to press you a little bit on this. What on earth would make you trust Aaron Jones more than Todd Gurley moving forward?
Well, just the past couple weeks.
I mean, week 1, you saw 13 rushes for 39 yards for Aaron Jones. And while Gurley hasn't been stellar top 2 running back Gurley, he's been productive for 2 weeks. We're talking about 101 total yards in week 1 and 60-something yards and a touchdown in week 2. Again, nothing amazing, but I think this is a nice opportunity for... I think this primetime game is going to be a good, nice scoring game for both offenses, and I'm just not out on the Todd Gurley bandwagon. Like, I'm not on this, hey, Gurley's done train that people seem to be on.
Okay. I don't think he's done. I mean, am I saying he's done by calling him an RB2?
It's sad.
It's a far away from where he was, I guess.
Okay.
2 years ago, right? But
right.
I don't think I just don't think he's going to be more than that strong RB2.
All right, so here's the real optics here. The question that I have for you about the appearance of what I'm about to do. How bad does it look when a podcaster who is doing a live show decides that he needs to go to the bathroom halfway through that show.
Or it's not even halfway through. Jesus. We're 20 minutes in.
So
not even 20 minutes.
Yeah, so we're like halfway through our show.
Okay, I guess.
Okay. So I decided I wanted to drink more water.
Oh no.
And I've been carrying around a little gallon jug with me to the gym. Before that, I had, water at work. I've had more than a gallon of water today, with most of that coming within the last 3 hours.
Okay.
I'm probably going to pee now and then again later in the show.
Oh, geez. Well, don't go now.
Bye.
No, don't. Oh, man. Okay. Well, you guys asked for it, and you have it. So, right now, our live stream, it says Brito. Where does it say? Yeah, over there. It says Brito over there, and Brito's not here anymore. For the podcast, I don't know if I'm going to cut this out or not. If you guys have any questions on Periscope, I can answer them until he gets back. But I would like to do is, go through some of Todd Gurley's stats this year, just looking at his touches. Let's see here. Yeah, I don't have time to do that right now because it'll be really boring for a live stream. So if you guys have any questions, let's see how this goes. I'm going to make sure that we are good to go. You know what? Fuck it. I will go and look at our quarterback rankings. How about that? Bam. Now Christian's going to yell at me as soon as he puts on the headphones.
All right, guys. The star of the show has returned.
I was just about to go through my quarterback rankings.
All right. Let's go through your quarterback rankings because I want to know what to do with Lamar Jackson. Because is he suddenly like the new Mahomes? Or has he just gotten fortunate with two, easy matchups and just, exploited those? Because I'm starting to think it's just the first.
Look.
I'm starting to think it's the second thing there. He's exploited two easy matchups, but he's got another good matchup coming up.
Yes, 100%. Lamar Jackson is a product of the pretty easy schedule so far. This week is not going to be that much different. I think Lamar Jackson is very viable. Is he a top one quarter? Is he the top quarterback of fantasy this year? I'm going to go ahead and say he's not going to be.
I agree.
Is he a quarterback one? Yes. Is he a strong quarterback one? I think so.
A strong quarterback one. So top 6 quarterback for the rest of the year.
I think so. I think he could be 4, 5, 6 in that area. The one thing that we do know, look, yes, he's had an easy schedule. And when people say, oh, but he's had an easy schedule, like other teams have good matchups and don't perform great. And so when a good quarterback has a good matchup and he does great, we have to say, hey, he's the real deal because a lot of quarterbacks have good stuff and don't go crazy.
So, Lamar Jackson is a quarterback that had a lot of hype from some fantasy analysts coming into the 2019 season. I was neither high nor low. I think I was really close to the consensus with Lamar Jackson that he was going to have a decent fantasy season, especially with that floor of the running. We saw that running floor. We saw that running ceiling last week with the 120 rushing yards and 16 rushing attempts. That's not going to be every week. As we saw week 1, he didn't really rush at all. He didn't need to. He threw 5 passing touchdowns. However, I think we're going to go back to the Lamar Jackson that we're used to after week 3. Kansas City, I think we might see some more passing from him again. I think that offense is going to try to keep up with Kansas City's offense, and it should be a decent day in the air, which is not Lamar Jackson's game, but in the air for Lamar Jackson. But going now then to week 4 and moving after that, I think we'll see a return to somewhere in between. Lamar Jackson will be better than he was in his rookie season, but he will not be who we saw in the first 2 weeks. He can't be this 158.3 passer rating quarterback, and he can't be the 120-yard rushing quarterback every week. It's just not sustainable, obviously, but it's also much lower than that, in my opinion. I think rest of season, we're looking at quarterback 8 through 14, not a top 6 quarterback.
Okay. I think that, look, I don't think I feel strong enough to argue, but I mean, just looking at week to week, just give me next 4 matchups for Lamar Jackson, because I'll tell you, like, just looking at it this week.
Look at the next 5. Only 2 of them are tough. He's gonna have He's gonna have 3 good games in the next 5, then a bye, then New England. So if you look at the next 6 games, I think he's a good start at Kansas City, at Pittsburgh, and versus Cincinnati. I don't think he's going to be a good start versus Cleveland or at Seattle. But again, we have to kind of go with the flow and make sure that these defenses are what we think they are. I don't think Kansas City has anything special against the pass, especially. I think Cleveland is better than we've seen in the first 2 weeks, and they were, decent last week, but I think they're much better than what we saw in week 1. Even though I don't think they are as good as people want them to be or hype them up to be. But Cleveland's defense will be solid in week 4. Pittsburgh, I think, is a whatever team. I definitely think that they are a bottom half of the league team. I know that our Steelers fans don't want to hear that, but they are a bottom half of the league team. Mm-hmm. And Cincinnati is obviously that. Seattle has a solid team for this year, and I don't think Lamar Jackson at Seattle will have a very good game. In fact, I think that has potential to be one of his worst games of the season at Seattle.
The thing I think about Lamar Jackson, and I know this isn't a huge deal, but it is worth noting, Lamar Jackson basically has a bonus. If you're in a 4-point touchdown game, he has an easy extra touchdown every game worth of rushing. He's gonna get at least 40 yards a game, which is basically an extra touchdown. So
right.
you're spotting Lamar Jackson an extra touchdown every game. I think that's pretty.
But how many passing touchdowns do you think he's going to finish with this season?
Give me over under, and I'll tell you.
30. He has 7 through 2 games.
It's going to be more than that. Yeah, I'd say over.
I say under.
Really?
Under 30 touchdowns.
Passing touchdowns?
Passing touchdowns, yep.
I don't know, man. I think...
he had 5 rushing touchdowns in his rookie year. So...
Is he going to last all year?
Yeah.
How about over under 13 games played?
Yeah, he's going to play all year. Yeah, he's going to have a good year, man. He's going to have a good year. He's going to Lamar Jackson's going to rush for
500 yards,
700 yards.
Yeah,
he already has more than 100.
yeah, and he had 75 last week, I think. So
no, he had more than 100.
Oh, did he have
120? Last
yeah,
week?
Just last week he had 120.
Just last week.
Oh, eesh.
Lamar Jackson will have 700 yards rushing this year, and 5 or 6 rushing touchdowns. That's where his value comes, man. He doesn't need to throw for 30 touchdowns. He's going to be just fine. He'll be a top 12 quarterback rest of the year. I just don't think he's this top 3 guy that people want him to be.
Okay, so this week we both have Pat Mahomes at 1.
So it's not me shitting on Jackson. He'll be fine. You can start him every week. You'll be fine. Just be wary when he's at Seattle, for example.
Temper your expectations. I want to be wary. I think he could perform like a...
That's fine.
Starter.
It's quarterback starts are slightly different.
Sure.
You can play a quarterback in a not great matchup. It's not like
not much.
It's not like playing a running back 2 in a bad
15.
matchup. Don't do that. Right?
Exactly.
Don't play a flex running back in a bad matchup. Don't play. Right. Don't come out here and say, "Hey, I'm going to start Phillip Lindsay against the number 1 rush defense." You're going to have a bad day. Yeah. So just it depends on the position. Quarterbacks, especially running quarterbacks with a floor like Lamar Jackson, won't typically have horrible days. All
right, Christian, really quick. I want to try something a little bit different here. I know we've we've talked about a lot about betting, and I know the DFS and Dynasty Pod that they host a lot of the pick'ems. But I wanted to really quick before we go back into our rankings to talk a little bit and give our listeners a little bit of an insight into how we bet. I know we've been both doing it a ton. Thanks to our partners over at Nitrogen Sports. If you guys aren't familiar and you haven't heard us talk about it, make sure you go over to our website, click the banner, and sign up, because it's a really cool website, easy to bet if you guys aren't living in Vegas and can't get straight to a sports book. Even if you are, it's just easier doing it from the comfort of your own home. But Nitrogen Sports totally uses Bitcoin betting, probably the number one Bitcoin betting site on the planet. So check them out. Just go to our website and click the banner. But, Christian, I want to hear a couple of bets from you, and I want to talk about some we don't do this very often, but I do think that the listeners, we're all gamblers, and we all want to make some money here. So what games do you have your eye on? And I can't wait to shit on the Dolphins here.
I want to talk about the Dolphins game and this absurd line. It's not absurd based on what we've seen over the past 2 weeks versus a team that's clearly tanking. So I think this is more of an interesting line that I want to talk about, where the Cowboys are minus 21.5. They're 21.5 point favorites.
That's crazy.
Against the Dolphins. And yet, not the highest favored team this week. These are insane lines in the NFL, with the Dolphins being 21.5 point underdogs and the Jets 22.5 point underdogs versus the Patriots. To put that in perspective, no other game has even a double-digit line, and only one other game has more than a touchdown favorite, and that's the Vikings being favored by 9.5 over Oakland. But 21.5 point favorites for the Cowboys and 22.5 point favorites for the Patriots. Or is that not absurd to you?
Listen, we're going to see this a lot because there's not very many times where a football team is absolutely horrible on both sides of the ball. Sometimes a bad team can lose a lot of games by being a really bad defensive team or a really bad offensive team. This just so happens that the Dolphins and Jets are really bad on both sides of the ball. I think the Dolphins are even worse on the offensive side of the ball than the Jets, but the defense is balancing them out, and people are going to score at will. So
I do want to talk about these because I actually think that both of these teams going into both of these games will cover. I don't think the Cowboys are going to cover that line. I don't have anything to say other than, hey, it's an NFL game, and I think the Dolphins will keep it a little closer.
Nope.
The Jets, however, that line is out of whack. That 22.5, I understand they lost their quarterback. I understand they looked poor against Cleveland. I know that the Patriots looked great in their first 2 weeks, but I will say this. The Dolphins are the worst team in football. Yes, the Patriots look good, but the Dolphins played they played the worst team in football. And secondly, this is a division game. That game will not be a blowout. 22.5 points. So
you just described last week's.
The Dolphins are the worst team in football in a long time. The Dolphins have a legitimate chance to go 0-16. The Dolphins preseason, I said we're going to be 2-14. My new updated prediction is 1-15.
Yeah,
I don't know where the win will come, but I'm just hoping it comes somewhere. Actually, I told Dale before the season started. I have a commemorative bottle actually that Dale gave me behind me from the undefeated season for the Dolphins, 1972. I'm hoping they come out with commemorative Coca-Cola bottles for the 0-16 season that we're about to have.
Yeah, it's nuts, man. Well, okay, first of all, always bet against the Dolphins until they prove you wrong. They just got blown out. I know, whatever, they're a bad team, but the Patriots just beat them 49-0. Until a team, and look, the Cowboys are a very good team. They're playing very well, and Dak Prescott is playing very well. The run game is on point, so there is no reason at all that this Cowboys team will be. What's stopping it from being 35-7? Absolutely nothing. And I would be surprised if the Dolphins score a touchdown.
You'd be surprised if the Dolphins score a touchdown?
I would be surprised if the Dolphins scored a touchdown.
The Dolphins will score a touchdown. You want to make a bet on this?
Hey, if there was a prop bet on Nitrogen Sports, I would put
I'm sure there is. I'm sure we just have to find it. This website has fucking everything.
I would bet a quarter of my weekly
We can
salary.
bet on first quarter action if you want. We can bet on second half action. Do you want to bet on the first quarter of the Dolphins? Here, I will give you the quick stats. First quarter for the Dolphins. The Dolphins are... this is brutal. The Dolphins are negative... plus 6.5, meaning they're pretty much... the Cowboys are a touchdown favorite after the first quarter. So
first quarter.
They're expecting to be down by a quarter, by a touchdown already after the first quarter.
I'm taking that every day. I'm taking that every day. I'm going to go, after we're done recording, I'm going to go ahead and put money on it.
You should do first half, because I feel like everything that,
No.
by the time this game will be done in the first half, and that line is 12.5. Like, the Dolphins will probably be down 12.5.
24.
And then they'll score like a late touchdown, and it'll be like 24-10. Fuck, I don't even think they'll get that. Oh my
They can't
God.
score 10 points, I'm telling you.
Anyways, if you want to enjoy some of this Bitcoin betting and check it out, nitrogensports.eu is the website, but the easiest way to access that is just go to our website, easlyfantasy.com. We've got a banner. Dale has actually been posting to our listeners on whatever groups that you're on the links directly. So if you're interested in doing that, you can also just hit us up. Dale and I are pretty responsive there. We can get you the links to Nitrogen Sports but our website's the easiest way to do it.
Yeah. And by the way, I have been posting a lot on social media about the $100 giveaway, and actually ties in right into the Dolphins thing. On Twitter and on Facebook, if you if you respond with your Nitrogen ID and tell me how much the Dolphins will lose by, whoever's closest gets $100 in free bets. So it's a no-brainer. It's free money, basically. If you're right, guesses are free. And I'm telling you right now, a lot of people are putting like 20, 16, 20, 24 points that they'll lose by. So
Quick question.
that's an indication.
Quick question. What if they win?
There's no chance they win.
Okay, but like...
There's no chance.
Okay, but like if they did, and you're saying how much they lose by, like it's just the closest bet? What if I texted you, hey, the Dolphins are going to win by 3?
Well, I guess if you say 7 points and the next highest is like 20, then I guess you win, right?
I guess.
I don't know, but it's impossible.
It's impossible?
It's impossible.
The Dolphins are bad enough to try to tank and win by accident.
No.
And the Cowboys' track record is like,
okay,
hey, we're going to fucking play the Dolphins, worst team in football, and accidentally lose.
Yeah, that's true.
This will be like the one game Prescott throws like 3 picks. Yeah, just saying.
The Jets will beat Miami, right? Handily.
Handily?
By 10.
If
by more
teams
than
could
10
score
points.
negative points, that game would be in the negatives.
You think has there ever been a game that tied 0-0? They're just going to play in between the 40s all game?
Oh, man. No, but these bad teams, they end up scoring on each other a lot sometimes.
Yeah,
so that does happen.
All right. Anyways. All right, let's get back into the rankings. Josh Allen.
Fuck out of here.
What I saw from Josh Allen last week. Buffalo's playing very well. Their defense is pretty good. And Josh Allen, man, he just looks sharp. Like, and I don't want to compare because I do,
Josh Allen.
When Cam Newton was on his tear, 3 years ago, when the Panthers almost went undefeated. That was 2-3 years ago. Anyways, when Cam Newton was being the man,
5 years ago.
Was it? Jeez.
I want to say it was.
Well, you know what I'm talking about.
2015, 4 years ago. I think that's what it was. When was
When
the
his
last year Manning
passes-
played? Because that was 2015.
Yeah, it was. Right? 2015, I think. Yeah.
2015 Panthers.
Anyways, when we are looking at, crisp passes and moving well in the pocket and running when he needs
Damn,
to.
I'm good at this. 15-1, 2015 Panthers.
Yeah. Josh Allen just looked that good. I have him the 6th best quarterback this week against Cincinnati that, people can tear Cincinnati to shreds, and Buffalo's just playing that well. I've no issue starting Josh Allen over, being in the top 6.
Give me one guy that's surprising that you're going to start Josh Allen over. You're starting Josh Allen over
Aaron Rodgers.
Cam Newton?
Aaron Rodgers. Yes. Well, yeah, definitely.
I'm sorry. Yeah, Cam's
He's not playing.
banged up. Yeah, he's probably not going to play. Okay, you're going to start him over Aaron Rodgers. So you have Josh Allen in your top 8?
I have Aaron Rodgers at 8, yes.
And you have Josh Allen at 7.
Yep.
That's a mistake.
I have Josh Allen at 6. I have Russell Wilson at 7.
Wow.
I'm not crazy. I mean,
I'd rather have Mahomes, Prescott, Jackson, Watson, Brady, Ryan, Rodgers, Wentz, Wilson. And then I have Allen.
You had it. We're just not going...
I don't think that's a huge difference. It's like 4 spots. It's not a big deal.
Close.
Yeah.
It's nothing to argue over.
Allen's going to have a good day. But I don't think...
John Chapman has...
I don't want to give him credit.
Allen at 4.
Fuck Josh Allen. Fuck that guy.
He's good, man. Why? I mean, he passes the eye test for me.
Did you guys do that? He passes the eye test? Wow, that's... Can't say that. Never mind.
He's looking good out there. Looking good in the neighborhood.
Josh Allen, Dale wants your number.
You said it.
I said what? What did I say?
Nothing. All right, let's look at our wide receiver. I just pulled up wide receiver rankings on our stream.
Okay. There they go.
Wide receiver jump out to you?
Not really, man. Chris Godwin is in my top 8. I have a feeling that he's deserving of being in that list, but I mean, John clearly has Mike Evans there. You two have Mike Evans there. No love for Chris Godwin?
I mean, I don't like Jameis Winston at all. You can't trust him.
But you have Mike Evans. See, here's the thing.
Well,
you have Mike Evans in there. Mm-hmm. Chris Godwin just went, 8 receptions on 9 targets for 121 yards and a touchdown.
I have Chris Godwin ranked ahead of Mike Evans.
As do I.
Yeah.
So who's fucking up our ranks? Who's fucking up our consensus ranks then? Because our consensus ranks don't have Godwin in there. In the top.
Because Steve has Godwin at 19.
Steve! The fuck, man? Jesus Christ, Steve.
Steve.
Do not follow Steve at SPAC21 on Twitter.
No, SSPAC. He still hasn't changed his Twitter name.
SSPAC. There we go. Is that not what I said? SSPAC?
Yeah, it's just hard to understand.
It's not like the SS pack.
It's SS pack. It's like if he was a warship, he would be the SS pack.
That's immediately what I thought. Is a warship.
Steve. Oh, hey, every fantasy guy needs a nickname. Steve is the fantasy warship.
Oh, okay. I was going to call him the fantasy tugboat.
That's good. Okay, that's better. You're better at nicknames than I am.
Fantasy tugboat.
And then wait, hold on. This can get way better. So whenever oh man, I'm going to do this in post edit. But when we say and welcome Steve Spacrotelli to the podcast, before he starts talking, we'll play the tugboat horn.
Okay. You don't think we have enough sounds that we randomly play? We need to add a fucking horn from a boat. Hey man, listen. Here's where I kind of want to get at with these rankings here. I want to talk a little bit about Julio.
Julio who?
Really? What other Julio is in the NFL that you know of that's famous and a wide receiver in our top 8?
I'm joking.
That's a really specific thing you just did.
Yes.
Top 8 wide receivers, which is what we're talking about. Okay, I'll give you 2 more hints. He played college at Alabama, and his real name, if I'm not mistaken, is Quintorris.
Quintorris, yes.
Okay.
Quintorris Jones. Yeah.
So.
Quintorris. That's how.
That's why you don't remember. Is Quintoris. Okay, so my dude, 11 targets and 10 targets in the first 2 games. So 21 targets. That's been his game always. What hasn't always been his game is touchdowns. 3 touchdowns through the first 2 weeks. Also beautiful. What I'm a little concerned about is 11 catches on those 21 targets, and he only mustered up 31 yards for those in the first week. But again, 11 targets and a touchdown. Are we going to keep seeing Julio in the end zone? Because if so, then Julio needs to be in everybody's top 5 for the rest of the year, because he's going to continue to see that volume of targets, and it'll more often equate to what we saw in week 2 than what we saw in week 1.
Yeah. Well, I mean, one thing that we have to judge wide receivers by is their target share and how often they're getting the ball and what their opportunity is.
Absolutely. If you're getting 21 targets through 2 weeks, you're going to continue to do that. My question is Julio going to keep scoring?
I mean, history says no, right? But
how do you feel about this offense? Because looked really bad week 1, looked better week 2.
Atlanta running back still has not scored a touchdown through 2 weeks.
Right.
Yeesh.
But Julio has 3.
Yeah. I think that this is the way the offense is going to be ran. You have to think that they're going to get their running game.
Ran. No running backs, though. So it's going to be caught that way.
Yeesh.
Okay, let's move on. That was bad.
Anyways, yes, just based off volume and consistency through 2 weeks, you have to rank Julio up there. I have him at 1, you have him at 2. We're not going to argue because you have Hopkins at 1, I have him at 2, so it is what it is. By the way, if you're streaming defenses, okay, let's kind of switch gears for a second. I know we're talking about wide receivers, but this has been on my mind. If you're streaming defenses, there are a couple sure bets this year.
This year or this week?
This year.
Okay.
The Miami Dolphins and the New York Jets are going to be scored on a ton. This might, and I've never done this before.
Potentially the Steelers.
Yeah, exactly. Potentially the Steelers, but well, that still has to be seen. Right now, it's the Dolphins and Jets. What are you stashing teams that are playing both these teams? Like the Chargers are playing the Dolphins and Jets pretty close together. Are you stashing the Chargers? I am not one to have 2 defenses ever, but is this a year that you're thinking, man, like these games are,
if you have such sure bets where you know a team is going to play the Dolphin, like,
yeah,
if you have the Bills defense and they're going to play the Dolphins twice, like maybe you stash them because that's 2 potentially huge games that you're going to get. So you're talking about a defense that you could get, and we got 2 games. Right, obviously you got Cincinnati this week. Then you got a rough game versus New England the following week. But you follow that up later this season with Tennessee, Miami. Then you see Miami again. There's some good games in there that you maybe want to stash, but I am not the kind of person that does that. It's you typically a roster spot that I don't want to give up, man.
Yeah.
I can see if you're in a deeper league, there's no reason not to, right? But most of my leagues only have 5 or 6 bench spots, so it's just not worth it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right. Let's go back to wide receiver. I'm sorry. I'm going to throw out the wide receiver rankings up here on our screen. The top 8 are consensus: Julio Jones, DeAndre Hopkins, Devontae Adams, Keenan Allen, Amari Cooper, Odell Beckham Jr., Mike Evans, and Antonio Brown. I'm the lowest on Antonio Brown. Even though it's playing the New York Jets, like, I'm still a little nervous. Although, if you guys were watching that Patriots game, Tom Brady, you can even look at it in the box score, I guess. Tom Brady wants to feed him the ball, at least last week.
Came right out on that.
It's crazy.
On that drive. Hey, let's just fucking feed Antonio Brown this drive. Now, he disappeared the rest of the game, but I think that had a lot to do with, like, they just didn't need him.
Yeah, well, he had 2 end zone targets back-to-back later in, I think, a couple drives after he scored.
By the way, totally pushed the fuck off on his touchdown score, but whatever.
Yeah,
he's on several of my fantasy teams.
You let him get away with it.
Yeah.
What, did you just get a text?
No, I was concerned that might have been a risky joke, but I don't think you even did that on purpose.
No, didn't do it.
Cool.
But before we go on, I do want to say I started a Spotify playlist for Eat Sleep Fantasy. I don't know how you look it up. I guess I'll post a link. I'm not sure how you search for playlists. I'll post a link on all our social media later on today or tomorrow. And it's I already put in a couple of my favorites, and Brito and everybody else is going to put in their favorites. So if you like what we talk about, you're going to love what we listen to.
Are you going to let me have access to that?
I don't know how.
It's going to be really diverse. I'm going to tell you that right now.
You're going to just put a bunch of Bad Bunny. And
I'm going to tell you,
Run the Jewels.
It's going to be really diverse because somebody was mocking that today, that my music hopped from Bad Bunny to that Bradley Cooper and Lady Gaga song.
Oh,
Shallow.
What's wrong with you?
Yeah. So I like that song. That's my karaoke song. Well, usually it's Backstreet Boys, but let's not talk about that. If you were there in Dallas, in not this year, but the year before, you would have seen me and Dale sing Backstreet Boys karaoke together.
Yeah, that was great. Good times.
Good times.
I do have a song. I don't know. Okay, it's called Uno. I think I sent it to you earlier, Christian. I'm sure you didn't read it.
I'm sure I didn't. No, I read it. I didn't. I clicked on it.
I mean, yeah.
To be honest, I clicked on it, and then I said, and then I clicked out. I'll listen to it. I'll put it on.
I don't look. The problem is, I can't tell, and I even watched the video. I don't know how to say this.
Just say it. Just say it from your chest.
I'll just say it.
Say it with your chest.
Whatever. Okay. So it seems like the artist is African American, but a lot of the song is kind of like in Spanish. And I kind of have a feeling that it's like I don't know, what do you call it, like appropriation? Like I think he's kind of like making fun of Spanish music a little bit, or I don't know, that like the Spanish culture. Maybe he really likes the Spanish culture. I'm not really sure what he's trying to say in the video or in the song or anything. It's really catchy though.
Things like that. Listen, man, I think Hispanics view a lot of this differently, and then you guys get mad at me when I do get upset about some of it. I think we view that cultural appropriation a little bit differently. Like, hey, the LeBron's out here doing Taco Tuesdays every Tuesday. Like, that's cool. Yeah. Like, that's funny. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
If you enjoy it. And if the music is you're enjoying the Spanish music and you're a black man and you like Spanish music, go for it, man.
Yeah. It's a catchy song. I'd highly suggest you look for our Spotify playlist. I'm going to post on social media. And I have a couple other my favorites on there. And I think we'll be deleting and adding stuff all the time. So, I don't know. It's something fun, something different. Look for it. If you guys, my stuff is mainly hip-hop. And
mine will there will be a lot of hip-hop.
No Lady Gaga.
No Lady Gaga. Dude, that one song is good, though. Song is fire. Dude, have you seen that movie?
No, because
okay, go watch that movie.
I'm not watching that movie.
You're gonna cry. You're gonna watch a movie and cry.
I am sensitive to certain situations for sure, but I'm not watching that movie.
Anyways, the movie name is A Star Is Born. By the way, I think it came out last year, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
Go check it out if you want to be sad.
All right, let's go do our tight end rankings, and then we're going to give people a little bit deeper dives because we're talking about the big names here. But we're going to go through just really quick after we talk about our tight ends. I just put them up on video on the live chat. We are looking at Travis Kelce, George Kittle, Zach Ertz, Evan Ingram, Mark Andrews is my number one for the week. Darren Waller, O.J. Howard, and Austin Hooper.
Hey,
Mark Andrews is special. Mark Andrews is special, I'm telling you.
I do want to say Darren Waller was such a good call by John.
Yes.
15 targets for a tight end through 2 weeks, and doesn't look like that's going to change much throughout this season. I think that was a great call. I think it has a lot to do with no Antonio Brown. There's not a lot of people to throw the ball to, and also they just like throwing to the tight end, whoever's there. So, yeah.
Yep.
So let's talk a little bit about Mark Andrews, because you
Mark
think Mark
Andrews.
Andrews is not only the real deal, but like the real deal.
He is going to be talked about how we talked about George Kittle last year. And dude has 16 catches on 18 targets, over 200 yards and 2 touchdowns in 2 games. There is absolutely no reason you start him with confidence anywhere you have him, unless you have Travis Kelce. Then you can kind of say, but if you have Mark Andrews pretty much anywhere, you are starting him. I mean, there's no reason not to. And I can understand, looking at T.J. Hawkinson week 1, you're thinking, okay, good game, let's see what he does. Didn't really perform. It was the other tight end, Disley, that got a lot of the looks from Russell Wilson week 2. This isn't the case. In Baltimore, it's Mark Andrews, man. I really like him. And it might be a little bold going him over Travis Kelce, but I just feel like Andrews just has a better matchup against Kansas City than Kelce does against Baltimore, if that makes sense.
Kelce, Kittle, and Ertz will continue to be my 1 through 3 for right now. But you convinced me to put Mark Andrews kind of in that group, and I put him number 4. So,
yeah. I mean, look, Zach Ertz. I mean, all these guys, they're all legit in this top tier of the tight ends. I just think Mark Andrews is part of this top tier. I mean, Zach Ertz has 23 targets through the first 2 weeks. His catch rate is way lower, but 23 targets, 13 receptions, over 100 yards.
Yeah, man. He's so good at Ertz.
Yeah, that's original. Real original there, Brito.
Hey,
what do you guys
was
say?
that guy you like? Andrews?
Yeah, Mark Andrews.
Mark my words, he's going to be good.
Oh, that's good. Do you still have faith in O.J. Howard?
You'll see.
You're trying, right?
Kelce.
I tried to run this show, and I'm just jumping through hoopers to get this back on track.
And by George, we'll get it back on track. Kittle.
You're just Delaney Walker right through this episode, aren't you?
Fuck. What do we do with Njoku? See, that was the Njoku.
You're joking too much.
All right, I gotta do something with Njoku because that guy's not gonna play this week, man.
No, he's not, and maybe out even longer. We should have done news in this episode, but
Not like that. We're gonna close it right here.
Really quick. Let's just go through quarterback, running back, wide receiver, tight end. You give me one, I'll give you one. Somebody that we haven't talked about that people should know. Start with quarterback.
Start with quarterback. Like people should know outside of this top 8.
Yeah. Like we didn't talk about that you want to talk about.
I think the Rams fixed their offense this week, and Jared Goff will be a very nice fantasy start this week. I think that's going to be a nice fantasy game. Period. Both sides of the ball, both teams. I mean,
yeah. I mean, 2 touchdowns in 2 games. You're not confident this week. You're hoping that he's going to
let's fix that a little bit. 283 passing yards. Only threw the ball 28 times last week. It was a weird-ish game with what happened with New Orleans. Also rushed for a touchdown. Had a good game. I expect 300, and if I had to put a touchdown line, I'd put 2.5. But let's just say 303 for Jared Goff for this week.
That's interesting. Jared Goff is rushing for touchdowns now, huh?
Yeah, with his -2 rushing yards.
They'd rather beat up Jared Goff than
over under rushing yards for the season for Jared Goff. I'm going to set it at 20. He had 100 last year, 108.
I'll go the over, but I don't think he's over 50.
Okay.
I'll take the under on 50.
Right.
Is that fair?
Under on 50. Oh, man, 50 is a good call. Yeah, you're right. All right, cool.
All right.
Jared Goff.
Okay. My guy would be Jameis Winston. I know people are, sick of him, sick of watching him play, and sick of O.J. Howard. We really didn't get to talk to O.J. Howard too much, talk about O.J. Howard, but I still think he's super talented and has a lot to show this season. A couple of bad games, just so happens. A couple of bad games he has were week 1 and 2. I think Jameis Winston comes out in this New York Jets going to Tampa Bay, and he takes care of him. He's a top 12 quarterback this week.
Right.
Okay. All right, what about some running backs? Tell me somebody that we haven't talked about.
I'm going to give you a guy. I'm going to go with guys that I think will correct their seasons that they've had so far.
Good. Okay, I'll do that too. Go.
All right. So here, I think not an explosive game, but enough to make you feel better out of Devonta Freeman. He scores? I think he scores, and I'll give you 70 rushing yards plus a score. Maybe a couple catches in there.
Okay.
Right? So he had 2 rough matchups to start the season. And while the Colts defense isn't poor against the run, they've been pretty bad on a yards per carry basis. So I don't think Freeman needs to rack up a ton of work to be effective and efficient in this game.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I don't know how people are feeling about him. I feel like week 1 obviously did horrible, but week 2 against Miami he did better. I'm talking about Sony Michel. He's playing Miami and New York Jets back to back. I feel like he's going to have a similar performance, maybe better this year. He could be a top 12 running back this week against the Jets. Last week he had 85 rushing yards and a touchdown. I'll take the over on that for this week against the Jets. You agree or disagree?
That's a good one.
Okay. Later in the season, Sony Michel has, well, actually not really later, week 5, 6, 7, 8, he has Redskins, Giants, Jets, and Cleveland. That's looking pretty good. And then
that is really nice.
Starting week 14, he has Kansas City, Cincinnati, Buffalo, and Miami. Buffalo's not great, but I don't know. There's a good little stretch there for Sony Michel.
Sony Michel, yeah, that's a good one. That division outside of the Buffalo doesn't really have too much to contest the Patriots. We'll see how good Buffalo actually is. I think they are a decent team. Josh Allen is okay. I think he's going to be an okay NFL quarterback, which is more than I was willing to say last year.
Right. Are you going to come around on Marcus Mariota yet?
No.
Okay. I'll try next week. So
I think that has a lot to do with Derrick Henry's actually good.
He is really good.
Buried him way too early.
Yeah. Really quick, Sam Darnold is expected to return in week 5. Are the rumblings, if you guys haven't heard, you can get Jamison Crowder super cheap right now. Jamison Crowder. Super cheap right now. I would implore you to try to get him for as cheap as you can right now.
Okay.
And maybe even Chris Herndon. He's coming back after week 4. It would be interesting if you really need a tight end. If you punt it on tight ends, Chris Herndon is really sneaky. Sneaky.
All right, I'm going to give you two wide receivers here, bonus here. For one, I'm just going to... The reason I'm going to give you 2 is because I feel like the first one's a little bit of a cop-out. If I think Jared Goff is going to have a good game, I obviously believe his receivers will as well. Brandon Cooks, I expect to have a nice bounce-back game. Rough week 1, medium week 2, fire week 3 is what I expect for Brandon Cooks. And I'm going to double down here, even though it's New Orleans. The Seattle Seahawks are playing at home, and I like both the receivers here in Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf to have nice games. DK Metcalf is a guy that you can get cheaper, but has seen some of that volume and looks that I expected from Russell Wilson, and I will continue to expect, some of that moving forward. 6 targets in week 1, 7 targets in week 2. I expect that. I expect that to be exactly what DK Metcalf will have all season, especially as he continues to gain that rapport with Wilson.
Yeah. Going back to Brandon Cooks, this year, 5. No. He has 5 receptions for over 100 yards.
Well, yeah, that's that. Yeah, 5 receptions for over 100 yards is exactly what you expect for Brandon Cook's stat line. But that you expect that on a weekly basis, not over 2 weeks.
Exactly.
But 74 yards and a touchdown last week. Give me 100 yards and a touchdown this week.
Okay.
Give me your guy.
Oh, let's see. My guy would be. Let's go.
You're really bad at this.
I'm just looking at a guy that I maybe have a little bit different than everybody else.
Mark Andrews.
Holy cow.
Who's that?
Nothing. I will go with Cooper Kupp. I don't know. I mean, it's pretty evident that Jared Goff is picking up where he left off with Kupp.
Okay.
And targeted 3 times as much as Brandon Cooks, which I guess I kind of expected. Like, I really can't compare him. Cooks is more of a big yardage home run guy, but right. Cooper Kupp, 19 targets, 120 yards last week. No touchdowns yet. That'll change. But with as much volume as he's getting, we always say this about wide receivers, if they're almost guaranteed volume, you got to start them. Cooper Kupp is a solid running wide receiver too.
Makes sense. All right, cool. Okay.
Robert Woods is borderline wide receiver 1 and 2 this week, I think, in PPR formats. All right.
Fair enough.
Last but not least, the tight ends, and then we'll go.
I don't have a great tight end for you, man. I unfortunately, it seems like we're starting to see that who is emerging as a top, 5, 6, 7, 8 guy and who isn't. And if you don't have Kelsey, Kittle, Ertz, Andrews, Ingram, Waller, Olsen, or Hooper, then it's not going to be a great week, in my opinion. There isn't a ton of guys that I would trust. Now, if I had to go a guy that could potentially have a good week and be a little bit deeper, I might go. Man, you can't even I would love to say Trey Burton, but you can't trust that offense right now. Right. It's just there isn't enough. Will Disley maybe, because I think that offense is going to have a good game.
How about this? Jared Cook. He plays the Seahawks, like we talked about this week. See, who scored twice on the Seahawks last week? Vance McDonald.
Okay, good one, man.
I think that Jared Cook could go back this week to where we need him to be, or where we really wish he would be.
Dale's really cooking up the good picks here.
Thanks, man.
I enjoy that Eifert from you. I'm sorry, man. I'm being a real Kyle. Wow. What does that even fucking mean, Dale?
That's a really wit and comeback.
All
right. I think this is good. I think our live show did pretty well. We didn't detract too much from the live. Anything you want to tell our live audience because they can see you?
I used our Manscaped to
let's see
shave my whole chest.
Let's see your balls. How much would it take?
I would have to lose all of the e-bets. And even then, my ball picks would have to go on DMs.
5,000?
Fuck you. What have you produced porn before? What would it
I'm
say?
good at this, aren't I?
5,000?
You start.
Great,
start
but this
low.
isn't going on the internet, right?
No. Yeah.
I've seen that one.
Yeah. They all say that.
Right.
All right. For Christian Brito, my name is Dale. Thanks for listening and watching. Make sure you're following us on social media because you get to get all the updates. We're going to figure out YouTube. I don't think we even went live on YouTube. I'm not sure, but we'll figure it out. If you guys need anything else, hit us up. eatsleepfantasy.com. Thanks, guys.
Yeah. Eat, sleep, fantasy. You rocking with the best. NFL fantasy football podcast. We talking mock drafts, running backs. Better follow the conversation with
John,
Dale, Christian, and Armando. Screaming Eat Nation. We doing what we like. Tune in every week. Guarantee we get it hype. Fantasy football enthusiasts. I know you plan to be joining us on Eat, Sleep, Fantasy. Yeah. Eat, sleep, fantasy. Woo! Eat, sleep, fantasy.